Okay, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for coming to the session running your business on Apttus Omni, our intelligent middle office platform. I'm Alan Manuel, and I'm responsible for our cloud platform, and I'd like to welcome you to this afternoon's session. We're going to do a panel today, and we're all going to do a panel off of no slides. That's a joke, and I can't see any of you if you're laughing or not. Okay, thank you. Somebody laughed. Okay, great. Well, we have no slides, so that's okay. So, that's okay. I'm joined on the stage today. by Kevin McBride from HP, Jason Leon from Microsoft, and Jane Krasicki from FIS. Okay. Before we get into the panel, actually, the entire presentation is in my notes here. So before we get into the Q&A, I'm just going to run through hopefully one or two slides just about the platform to kind of set the tone for what we're going to be talking about. Okay. All right. So the Apttus Omni platform is really composed of a couple of different components, and you heard about this from this yesterday's session with Kirk. It's really designed to support three kind of business functions. Number one is the full management of quote to cash. Number two is enterprise contract management, and number three is digital commerce. Okay? Number four is PowerPoint. Okay, so we're talking about our platform that supports these three business cases. Underneath that, in our Omni platform, we really manage and run our own data models. So regardless of which application that we talk to, the Omni platform manages and runs our own data model. We host our own master objects like products, prices, contracts, orders, et cetera. This allows us to bring to customers really this purpose-built middle office platform. In addition, we've implemented a complete set of microservices. Basically, our whole platform has a set of services that allow us to serve these business functions, again, entirely rebuilt on our new platform, and all of this, of course, is running on Azure, okay? And at the end of the day, those of you who are familiar with Apttus, this is really in support of our full product portfolio. So we have our process applications that help you do your day-to-day work more effectively. We have our behavior applications which influence how end users do their work, the incentives, the promotions, the rebates that apply in their particular situation. And of course, we have our AI. You heard about that yesterday. Max, our artificial intelligence agent that allows you to affect these middle office transactions through the use of AI, okay? Now, what's it like to be running your business on Omni? So I'm going to turn it back now to our panel, and we got this chart here. So the three benefits that we're going to end with is number one, the power of the new platform. So when we talk to the panel, we're going to be talking about what additional power are you getting from your platform. Number two is flexibility. So what changes maybe in your IT infrastructure have you had to adapt to, or are you able to adapt to by adopting this new platform? And then number three, what kind of innovation are you looking forward to in your individual businesses with the adoption of the Apttus Omni platform, okay? All right, so now we'll get to the fun part of the conversation. I can put the clicker away, that hasn't really worked for me yet. All right, let's just go through and allow you guys now to kind of introduce yourselves. Jane, why don't we start with you, name,
Sure.
role, and what you do
Jane
in the company?
Krasicki, I'm an Enterprise Integrations Program Manager at FIS. FIS is a 500 Fortune company. We are the leading global provider of banking and payment technologies. We have 53,000 employees with serving about 20,000 plus clients in 130 countries.
Great, Jason?
Yeah, thank you very much, Alan. Jason Lehan, I'm the manager of the contract management office at Microsoft. My group primarily supports infrastructure as a service contracts in the data center business, and primarily my team sits under Azure and under Cloud and Enterprise. So.
Okay, Kevin?
And I'm Kevin McBride from HP, a little tiny company that you might have heard of. And so I am responsible for our global sales data management, so responsible for our customer partner profiles as well as our partner agreements. HP, for those that don't know, is a pretty large company. We're around a 50 billion company once we split. We split a couple of years ago from Hewlett-Packard Enterprise, but the half that we're in sells PCs and printers. Show of hands, anybody who's never owned an HP printer? Okay.
I don't see any hands.
So you know who we are.
Great.
So
Great.
I think that's
All right, great. Common theme over the last 2 days has been digital transformation, how businesses are changing to adapt to the new needs of their customers. So why don't we go through and just tell us, again, we'll start with Jane in your organization, then we'll move down the line. Tell us what is changing in terms of what your customers are needing from you or demanding from you, and how you've had to adapt both business and technology.
Sure. Well, the nature of our business, we're cutting edge. We need to help our clients help their customers do their business. It has put us into, as an organization, modernization of our processes. We need to look at technology like the cloud, like AI, in order to help our employees be more effective, optimize the way that they work. So looking at the technologies we've got Microsoft Dynamics and Apttus has really put us in a place where we can start to achieve those in that middle office space and really become, put our whole employee base into a much more modern experience.
Okay, great. Jason, how about you?
Yeah, absolutely. So as many of you know, with the explosion of sort of all of the deals in the cloud computing space, Microsoft is sort of at an interesting stage now with respect to my group, in that we are a software company by background, but being in this data center environment, we are migrating to a supply chain environment.
Right.
And so what that's done is it's really having to take a look at sort of, how we're going to drive business impact. The expectations are getting bigger from our current stakeholders. And as we move forward and think about how we're going to scale the business, it's impactful to kind of think about sort of this middle office platform.
Okay.
So.
And Kevin, how about you?
So at HP, a couple of years ago, 2.5 years ago, Hewlett-Packard split. And on our side, the PC and printer business, we really like to think of ourselves as like a really large startup. And so we are transforming all of our ways in which we interact with the channel, ways in which we interact with the customers. One of the key imperatives is we needed to actually get off of our legacy infrastructure that was shared with HPE. So we chose, Apttus is one of the mechanisms to do that, along with a number of other solutions, including Microsoft Dynamics. If we look at our business, though, we are clearly, though very big, #1 market share in PCs, #1 market share in printers. We're in a declining market. And so we have a strategy as a company for core growth and future, and we see the future coming with a change in the way the channel works. The traditional channel, which drives 82% of our business, is going to change over the next 5 years. We're going to see more marketplaces. We're going to see Amazon and Alibaba and these kinds of competitors come up. And we needed to be prepared to manage that future change.
Great. Now, each of you had some prior history with Apttus, right? So Kevin, we'll start with you. What was your prior history with Apttus?
So our experience with Apttus previously was before the split. We had an Apttus contracts management attached to Salesforce.com, but we were really not utilizing it completely. We were really using it as a mechanism for sales to ask the contracts team for a new contract. That's really what we had in the past, but of course, as we were transforming and moving to Microsoft Dynamics, we started to look more deeply at what could we do with Apttus as a plugin to Dynamics. And so we were one of the early adopters of the Dynamics plugin.
Okay, Jason?
Great. Yeah, so for us, it's kind of a cool story in that we take a sort of a one Microsoft approach with what our CEO kind of coaches amongst us. It's that we were developing sort of an overall long-term strategy to drive huge impact with the business, especially with where we were going with sort of the supply chain company. And simultaneously, we were able to sort of leverage our partners on the legal side of the business. As you guys know, Microsoft is a huge company with different parts of the business in procurement, C&E, legal, and we had these wonderful partners in the global contracting office that sort of adopted Apttus first with respect to our contract repository and in regards to an NDA platform that allowed us to kind of create NDAs very quickly and efficiently. And so we've sort of partnered up really closely together with respect to my contract management paper and vision paper, and we're sort of aligning as we move forward.
Yeah, great.
So it's exciting.
Great. Excellent.
Yeah.
And Jane, how about you?
So in 2015, we implemented the Apttus CLM product. We had to integrate it into a homegrown sales platform. we did that by using a stripped down version of Salesforce to make that happen. Not an ideal environment, but it worked, and we actually got some pretty good efficiencies and optimization from that. We were able to take our complicated core banking contracts, 40-page contracts, and we took that, it took like 100 days down to something like less than 30 to pull those all together. So a huge savings for the legal staff there. Through electronic signature, we were able to significantly reduce the time it took to turn around a client-executed contract. And then it also got us into what I would call self-service contracts, so for our sellers to be able to press the button, get the paper, and go, and not stop at legal. So that's been a really great journey for us. We did an acquisition of SunGard in 2016. That gave us a great opportunity to take a look at our sales CRM strategy, and we were able to re-implement Apttus along with the Dynamics CRM 365 platform. So it's been an interesting journey so far.
So business change across all three of your organizations, and at the same time moving to the Apttus Omni Cloud platform. Okay, let's talk a little bit, maybe some more details for those in the audience that might be, taking a look at, hey, is now the time right for me? How do I go about doing it? Maybe just the early steps of the process, the planning process, or the beginning of the project. Jason, I'll start with you. Just how are you going about?
I think that sounds relevant.
About that internally?
My story is very different, but from my colleagues here on the stage, but very much relevant. I think, especially for anybody that's thinking about migrating and implementing a full-on contract management platform, focusing on the middle office platform. For us, we really kind of had to take a step back and really look at the overall strategy. We had to develop a strategy. As I said earlier, we developed that long-term white paper.
Okay.
We spent an abundant amount of time sort of conveying that and evangelizing that across the business with our stakeholders. Still, even today, it's very important to make sure that we sort of make sure that leadership is on board as well. As we think about sort of developing the requirements, that becomes really important at the early onset. So you can begin to sort of think about the metrics that you're going to be able to provide to leadership in the business as you sort of implement the next stage. From cycle time reduction to thinking about how some of our stakeholders are, identifying ways to find clauses in contracts quickly, and a lot of the other areas that Jane spoke about earlier. So. Okay,
Kevin, how about you? The early stage of the project, some lessons learned, planning, or the early stage of the project. What advice do you have for members of the audience?
So for us, we had a similar thing to Jane as far as we had kind of a compelling thing. It wasn't a merge, but it was a split. And so we needed to exit our Siebel PRM platform, which is where we were using it as our contracts repository, but we simply were using it as a repository. It was a great, big, expensive SharePoint, is what I would call it.
Yeah.
And when we were looking at doing the planning, we were saying, okay, we need something that's going to scale with the growth strategy of the company. We need something that can be more than a contracts repository, something that can integrate seamlessly into our Microsoft Dynamics world. And more importantly, even if we don't implement all of the capability right away, we need to be able to grow with these new business models. We don't know what the agreements for partners are going to look like for 4 years from now, 5 years from now. We're going to need to use the more advanced functions that come with Apttus. And so my first thing would be figure out your strategy. For sure, understand your strategy, get your executives aligned. The second thing is, if you have an opportunity, something driven by a separation or a merger, use that time to do some standardization. So we standardized globally. We had 3 separate processes, 3 separate repositories. We used that time to standardize globally and think for the future, which was really played out well in the way that we implemented. We could have done a very simple task, check the box, got off of Siebel PRM, but if we had done that, we would have lost an opportunity in the standardization and in looking towards the future.
Jane, how about your thoughts on the beginning of a project, what to look out for?
Think big. Start small, scale fast, right? It's a lot of change you're going to put your organization through, so you need to think that through, and a lot of time in planning. And I didn't get it. This was a project that was part of a much larger integration program, so I didn't have the luxury of being able to sit back and think and plan more. Because I think we made some design decisions about some of this, going to the strategy, that if we had a little bit more time to play and think, we would have done some things differently, and I
Yeah.
wouldn't have some of the issues I have today.
Yeah. Now, let's talk specifically about implementation of a new CRM. So for those who might be looking at, maybe a new Apttus, a new version of Apttus and a new CRM as well, best practices for thinking about managing those timelines, project teams, et cetera. Maybe Jane, back to you.
Yeah, your implementation people, whether you use Apttus or use a third party, pick them carefully because they are going to make or break your project, right? They need to be people that fit with your organization and your project team. You're going to be, side by side with them. So that's one of the things I would say is be careful about that. And think about the workflows and the business process, right? We get all caught up in the technology and the functionality of stuff, but really spend time on looking at the flow and the business outcomes and what that's happening downstream. Because with this new CRM, you really have a chance to fix a lot of that and align a lot of those processes and really get the optimization out of it.
Okay, Kevin,
Yeah.
how about you? CRM
Yeah, and
implementation.
so what I would say is very similar. I mean, we had a number of transformations happening at the same time.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I think helped us is we chose to stagger the Apttus plugin a few months after the Dynamics deployment. Because we really wanted to make sure we didn't confuse matters around what's an Apttus problem, what's a Dynamics problem, what's a deployment problem. So we did some thinking around how do we coordinate the changes so that the change management works and the process was working. You can actually get to the bottom of what the problem is. So we implemented Dynamics in September. We had planned to implement the Apttus plugin along with some master data changes. When I say some, 600 million customer records and a million channel contacts. Little. But we planned to do all of that in January. We chose to push that out a little bit and do that in February because we wanted to make sure the Dynamics environment was stable. So when we made these other big changes, we could quickly get up to speed. The thing that I'm most proud about from an Apttus perspective is of all the things I changed in February, Apttus is the only one I didn't get an escalation on.
Nice.
Great, fantastic.
Excellent.
Fantastic. Jason, how about you?
Yeah, absolutely. So with respect to CRM and our overall strategy, what we've decided to do is kind of take a real hard look at the business and say, where is the focus of our negotiation? And with thinking about change management, the priority for us is going to be starting with CRM implementation, is getting our negotiators out of manual work, getting them to an automated state, and then sort of driving from there to sort of the middle office platform and implementing that downstream. I think it's a lot easier to sort of train the new culture. And as you said, Jane, very well, that's kind of the way that we're looking at it.
Okay.
On top of that, I think it's very important when you're looking at implementing any type of new technology to definitely focus on sort of the process and the standardization opportunities first, because technology is not going to solve any problems at all.
Great,
So.
great. All right, so one last thing. I'm just going to bring back up on the screen this chart about power, flexibility, and innovation. And we talk about the Apttus Omni platform really being designed to help companies achieve benefits in these three areas. The ability to do more or to solve more complex problems, the ability to be more adaptable to different systems, different integrations, different ways to store your data, and innovation really being the basis or the foundation for AI and advanced ways of doing work. So based upon your experiences so far, among these three, power, flexibility, innovation, you can pick all, you can pick some. What have you seen so far? What are you looking forward to most? Kevin, I'll start with you.
Well, so for us, we're getting what we want. We finally have a contracts lifecycle management. I don't have this black box of a bunch of work that's done and then one day the agreement shows up. I can see where we are in the process. I've got seamless integration with eSign from Adobe so that I don't have to go to another application to get the signature and then put it back and then make it an attachment. I've got seamless integration with my CRM system. And so I'm seeing the contracts lifecycle management that I envisioned.
Yeah.
We're, from a scale perspective, we started with about 100,000 partner agreements. We cleaned that up as part of the migration. We have about 82,000
100,000,
now.
okay, yeah.
And then as part of that migration and the use, we've been in live in the first month. I think we're doing 120 agreements a week. which we could never do in the past. That would
Okay.
take months.
So that's really the power side.
Yep.
Doing
Scalability is what
more of
we've
the scalability
seen. Yep.
and ability to handle those volumes. Great, fantastic. Jason?
Yeah, I think for us, it's being able to scale long term, right? I can pick almost any of these terms and apply something to our day-to-day business today, but because we're in this very unique cloud environment today, and it's heavily integrated with supply chain, being able to be flexible is key for our business.
Yeah.
And when I think about sort of moving contracts from creation all the way through execution and then managing the life cycle of that, being able to be flexible throughout that entire process is going to be key to us.
Okay,
So.
great. Jane, how about you?
Yeah, flexibility. I mean, our company changes all the time, right? We buy companies. We're just always seem to be in a constant state of change. So that flexibility with a tool and a platform that allows you to keep up with that change, we can't have a long change cycle. It would not work with us. So I think that flexibility in what the Apttus and that middle office brings us, and the ability to be able to change and improve those downstream processes. I'm really excited about Max.
Okay.
The
Good.
possibilities
Somebody said
there
innovation, so that's
of
good.
what
All right.
how you could use that in
Yeah.
our environment is really exciting. So
Yeah. I mean, with the Apttus Omni platform, really you have to get that functionality in place, and then that sets you up
yeah,
to be able to take
absolutely.
advantage of some of these innovative AI capabilities that are coming. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that's it. We're just about out of time. So Jane Krasicki from FIS, Jason Lehan from Microsoft, and Kevin McBride from HP. Thank you very much.
Great.
And appreciate
Thanks.
you taking the time this morning. Thank you.